Hey, what's up guys? Tom here from Positive Lead Diagnostics. A little bit different of a video here. I don't have a car. This is actually one I did, I don't know, twice now. I say twice because it came to the shop once and it had to leave and then it was brought back. But it was a few months ago when I first looked at it, and it recently came back, in the previous week or so. Basically the customer complaint was a check engine light. This is a 2006 Volkswagen Passat with a 3.6 liter. The vehicle came in, customer complaint was a check engine light, and the fault stored was a P2293 fuel pressure regulator 2 performance. And for setting the criteria for this fault, I believe there's actually two for this fault. It's the P2293. There is a lower limit exceeded and an upper limit exceeded. The lower limit is usually caused by low fuel pressure, and the upper limit is caused by high fuel pressure. Looking at my measured values, my data PIDs, my fuel rail pressure was at 120 bar. I'm not sure what that is in PSI. It's a lot. The spec for this vehicle is 40 to 50 bar at idle. I did some testing on this high pressure fuel pump. It is a ground side switched fuel pressure regulator on the pump. So I had good low side pressure, and I was checking my circuitry to this fuel pressure regulator. I believe it's N276 on the high pressure pump. And I was also looking at my fuel pressure sensor to make sure that it was reading accurately. I borrowed a digital fuel gauge from a different shop, and in fact my fuel pressure was, that 120 bar was accurate. So I was looking into there being a problem with the high pressure fuel pump. So the high pressure fuel pump circuit for the N276 is a ground side switched solenoid. It comes from a fuse, and it is ground side controlled by the engine computer. Looking at the duty cycle for this N276, it was a on-off square wave. Being that it's ground side switched, the on time is actually when it is down at 0, and when it's off is when it will be up high at 12. Since it came from a fuse, it was at 12 volts when it was off. So looking at this square wave, I determined that the computer was controlling this high pressure fuel pump to generate this high pressure. There was no issue. There was no issue with the pump, no mechanical issue with the pump. It was being commanded on by the engine computer. So looking at the duty cycle, or looking at the square wave and calculating the duty cycle, I was able to determine that the ECM was controlling N276 at 90% and causing this high fuel pressure. So the question was, why was my fuel pressure so high? What input was my computer seeing that was saying, hey, let's put an increase in this fuel pressure? All my inputs to the computer were looking good. And then I found out that this high pressure fuel pump was timed. All my inputs look good. I'm thinking computer problem. So I got some information. This high pressure fuel pump is run by the timing chain, and it is actually timed. So when you do the timing chain job, you would put your cam and crank marks up, and you would also, there's a mark on the sprocket for this high pressure fuel pump, and it has to be timed. I got a hold of some measure values for the timing. So measure values for the timing were 208 and 209, I believe. Let's see. Right, so 208 and 209. 208 is for the intake cam. and 209 is for the exhaust cam. So the spec was -5 to +5, so within that range on both 208 and 209. So that's the spec would be plus or minus 5, anything in that range. So looking at these measured values, my 208, which is my intake cam, was at -7, and my exhaust cam 209 for my exhaust cam was at -4. So right there, it's out of spec. That's saying that my timing is out. If my timing is out on my cam and crank, then that would also put my timing off for my high pressure fuel pump, and maybe that would explain the high pressure at all times. I'm not sure what the computer looks at. Maybe it's these values. On this vehicle, in order to check the timing, what you have to do is you have to pull the front end, pull the intake, and then pull the valve cover to check the timing. And you know, the customer would need to pay for that. So that was why the vehicle left. It was basically, hey, we think it's out of time, and you know what we need to do is tear the vehicle down and basically check it. So I didn't feel good giving the customer that kind of answer. I wanted to know, but at the time I didn't have a known good cam crank waveform for this engine. So even if I would have taken one, it wouldn't have done me any good. I didn't have anything to compare it to. So the customer declined the teardown to check the timing, and they took the vehicle. In the meantime, another one came in. This was maybe for an oil change or something else. It was a known good, so I took the opportunity to take a waveform off of that one, just in case, just for my records, my peace of mind, whatever. Recently, the customer brought the vehicle back. Same complaint, you know, the check engine light. So when the vehicle came back the second time around, it still had the P2293 fault stored. And in addition to that, it had a P0016 was a cam crank correlation fault. I did not have that the first time around. That helps with the diagnosis as to definitely where I'm going and that we were heading in the right direction last time. So now that I have a known good cam crank, what I did was take another cam crank signal off of this car and compared the two. So I'll take you to the waveforms that I took. Once again, I apologize for not having this filmed. I wasn't able to film the car, but I just still feel like this is maybe some valuable information. I learned my lesson with this one. So let me take you to the waveforms. Basically what you want to do is just get 720 of the crank on both your known good and your known bad, and just compare the two. Find a spot where it's easy to compare them and see a difference. We're going to take a look at this first waveform that I took, this capture. This would be on the vehicle with the check engine light or the issue. Yellow trace is my crank, green trace is my intake cam, the blue trace is my exhaust cam. And what you want to do when you're doing this is basically get 720 degrees of the crank. So 2 rotations of the crank, 1 rotation of the cam. That's what you need. So we're going to use this crank sync right here. So 1 crank sync to the next is 360 degrees. To the next, 720. 2 rotations of the crank, 1 rotation of the cam. And what I want to focus on is this leading edge right here in comparison to where this crank sync is. So I'm going to zoom in a little bit on that. Okay, so this leading edge on my intake cam looks to be maybe 1 tooth in from this crank sync, And just for this picture, we're going to use, let's say, this blue trace, my exhaust cam. It's about 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 teeth away from this cranksink. So this is my known good waveform. And same thing, you just want to get 720. So I want to zoom in. See right here. And I don't know if you can tell, but already this waveform is different. This leading edge, this green trace is my intake cam. It is dead center of this cranksink, whereas in the known bad one was 1 tooth in. See our exhaust, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So the exhaust relatively close. Intake cam about 1 tooth off. So right here, this is what you need when you're comparing cam and crank signals. You need a known good and a known bad waveform to compare. On this vehicle, checking the timing involved pulling the front end, involved pulling the intake manifold, involved pulling the valve cover. Customer didn't want to pay for that teardown. How much easier is this to do than tearing the whole vehicle down? And what if you think that the timing's out, you tear the whole vehicle down and it's not even out of time? Known good, known bad, cam crank correlation. And this is what you need to compare the two. Right here, this verifies that my timing is out. Maybe a worn guide, maybe a stretched chain, maybe it's 1 tooth out. This right here tells me that my intake cam is out, which would also lead me to believe that my high pressure fuel pump is out, and that would be the reason I have this excessive fuel pressure. Maybe the computer's looking at this 208 and 209 measured value and it's saying, you know what, you guys are out of spec. That means my fuel pump is out of time, so I'm going to up this pressure. Not sure the strategy behind that, but this is what you need. Known good, known bad, verified right there that the timing is out. Much easier than pulling this vehicle apart. Well, I hope you guys find this video informational. It's a little bit different for me not to have the car. So that about sums it up for this one. Using cam and crank signals to verify timing, especially on this. I needed a known good one. I didn't have it at the time. So it was kind of like, I didn't feel right giving it back to the customer. Hey, this is what we think it is. So in the meantime, I got a known good one. The vehicle came back, lucky me. Verified that the timing was in fact out. Customer didn't want the repair, but using cam and crank signals to verify timing, pretty sweet. Hope you guys can find this video informational. I hope it helps you in the future if you ever get one of these. One more thing, don't forget, check out my cousin Mike, PSK Performance. He just started his own YouTube channel, some short videos right now. But you have to start somewhere, so go check that out for him. I will try to link his video on this one. So check that out. And I hope you guys enjoy this video. I know it's a little different. Let me know what you think. So thanks for watching.